Ladies and gentlemen, I got you a treat today. We're sitting down with IFBB pro bodybuilding legend, Dusty Hanshaw. Thank you for coming in, man.
Appreciate it. I like the loose use of the word legend. That's nice.
You are a legend. Don't downplay your status, man. Like, you obviously have I told you when I first met you, I tried not to fanboy over this guy because I would see him at Gold's working out. And it didn't register with me until one day I'm like, wait. So I looked up Dusty Hanshaw,
right,
and up showed a Flex magazine that I used to see you on, like one of them, because when I was a kid, man, getting into bodybuilding, my dad would take me to Walmart and I'd go straight to the magazine aisle.
Right.
Flex and Muscular Development. Those were my two. And I'm like, holy shit, he lives here in Greer?
Right.
But anyway, long story short, I've gotten to know you a little bit over the last year, kind of here and there, and seeing you at the gym. And I wanted to get you in here just to kind of talk about your career in bodybuilding, and, just kind of, we'll shoot the shit, man.
Absolutely.
So tell me, what got you started in bodybuilding, dude? We'll kind of take it back. I'm sure you told the story a million times.
Yeah, no, it's all good. I mean, basically, same as most people. I played hockey was my sport, and I had a shoulder surgery when I was 18 that ended that, and I realized I had to get a job, which was never the plan.
Right.
So went and got a job, but I also quickly realized I needed a place for the competitive energy, and I knew my way around the gym from that, and I went to the gym, got a membership, and I decided to do a show.
Yeah.
No muscle on me. I decided I'm going to do a show. Prep for a show, I believe it was about 6 weeks later. No idea what I was doing. So I just said, all right, well, tuna fish is low in fat and low in carbs, so I'll eat 2 cans of this, every 2 hours, and do that 6 times a day, and that'll be how I prep for a show.
Right. That's how you did your first prep?
Yeah.
Nice.
That's all I ate for the whole time. I can't eat tuna anymore. And it was funny because I hated the entire prep.
Yeah.
I never understood why anyone would do it, and I vowed that I would never do it again. But I also can't quit because I had said I was going to do something. So I finished it up, and literally it was. And I'm not, to this day, I was never into the stage of bodybuilding. Okay. But for whatever reason, that time I enjoyed like a finish line. Okay. They gave me like a short-term goal, so I was like, all right. And I spent a couple of years just tinkering with it. And then in about 2007, so this would have been, 3 or 4 years into my tinkering around, I decided I really wanted to take it seriously and kind of dove in. At that point, I'd been working in a supplement store like this for a while, and I was like, I think I could do well with this, and just started doing a homework online, reached out, convinced a very well-known at the time guy, Dante Trudell, who, I hammered him into submission to work with me, and the rest was history after that. So it took off.
So you're a product of the, I guess, original dog crap training methods.
Yeah.
What's that like? Give us a brief overview of dog crap.
The brief is progressive overload training, where it is low volume, high frequency.
Okay.
So in the most advanced version, just to make it quick, you're doing the full body in 3 days of training.
Wow.
But you're training 4 days a week, which means that 4th day is back to what you did the first day. Wow. So it rotates through. And the idea is obviously you can't have as high a volume if you're going to be training that often. Yeah. But when you do that, the idea mathematically is, I'm making up numbers, so nobody do math here. But if you were, if you could train your body part 50 times a year, how much will it grow? Or what if you could train it 70 times a year? Yeah. Without overdoing the volume, And then progressive overload is really simple. It's unarguable. Like I always tell guys, it's like, well, listen, if you can bench press 200 pounds for 10 now, I promise if you're eating right, when you can do 400 for 10, you will be bigger.
Oh, of course.
And it's really, I try to oversimplify that kind of stuff because, as you know, right now, one benefit we had when we were just starting, or I had, was there wasn't much to go for on information. So you went to guys in the gym, magazines, which didn't really help you. Yeah. And that was kind of it. And now the amount of information is too much. Yeah. And there's,
we have paralysis by analysis.
Yeah, there's just way too much. And I feel bad for guys because if I was them, I would want to know the route too. I feel like where people should go back to a point, you got to be cautious because there's a genetic side to this. Yeah. But if I was a young kid and I came in to Crunch or Golds and saw you, I would watch you and I would just start doing what you were doing. And eventually I would grow the nerve to talk to you and ask you, because that's how I got into bodybuilding. When I really got started, I just went up to a guy in the gym that I knew, and I had known him for a long time from other gyms. I just asked him, I said, can you write me a diet? Yeah. An off season, I want to get big. And he literally got a piece of paper, handed me a diet, and that was it. That was the start, you know? And because to me, it was very simple. He is where I want to be. So why wouldn't I just ask him what to do? Yeah. And I find it odd that so many people don't do that. And obviously there's variations of what you can do. You know, if I were to watch you train in the gym, me train in the gym, and someone else that all have great results, you're going to see variations. But at the end of the day,
same principle.
Very similar. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's it's funny you say that, because in today's time too, there's people, I would consider myself one who's trying to put good information out there.
Right.
You know, like I did a video last week talking about how to improve your bench press, right? And it was just a simple piece of advice. Stop looking for an accessory movement to improve your bench press.
Yep.
Like stop looking at the close grip or your rack press,
right,
or tricep movement to fix your lockout. Just bench more frequently.
Right.
Find the motor patterns to get efficient. Well, YouTube, that video blows up and everybody's like, why would I take advice from a gearhead like you? Yeah. Oh, great. Another person who abuses steroids telling us how it's done. And I'm like, yeah, we live in a time where information is readily available, but people are not willing to listen to get information and put it there in front of them, I guess.
Yeah.
Too.
Well, it's also it's too easy. The idea that you're not working hard enough on the thing, it's not sexy.
Yeah.
So it's way more fun to find out or to hide behind, well, I can never get as strong as him because I'm not willing to take the drugs he takes, which is also an assumption. Yeah. That's you're assuming not just that something's being done, but a lot of it's being done.
Yeah.
You know, and that's where things go side. It's funny because they say that I say the same thing about the amount of work people put in their weird warm-up routines. I'm like, what I would suggest is I like, for example, for legs, I'll gun out my legs because it's morning, you know, use the massage gun on them. And then if I'm squatting, I squat to warm up my squats. Yeah. And it might take 5 sets before I get into, okay, now we're starting to move, we're going to go. But I'm like, well, why wouldn't you just warm up doing what you're going to do?
Yeah.
You know, like when you're playing hockey, you don't warm up by playing baseball.
Exactly.
You warm up by playing hockey.
And it amazes me that a lot of these people have the time to do that. Like, I've seen guys warm up for an hour. Right. Spend 45 minutes on their workout, and all that they got done was a few sets of front squats.
Right.
And I'm like, man, you just did hip mobility, you did the back roller, you did all these things that do not correlate to what you're training that day.
Yeah.
So yeah, just wasted energy going to the wrong places.
Yeah.
But yeah, so with that being said, in the gym, you know, you're an observant person. I love watching your videos with Mutant, where you go and kind of pick on people for their, shitty,
etiquette
behavior. Yes.
Etiquette. Etiquette is my issue.
So I guess give me 3 of the biggest pet peeves that you have in a, we'll say a big box gym where you train.
It's funny because they've changed over time, because I used to train a smaller gym so I wouldn't see them. But they're things that blow my mind. So first thing that drives me crazy is obviously just not putting weights back at all. Okay. That drives me absolutely bananas. Second phase is that at our gym, everything is labeled where it goes.
Yeah.
So it drives me nuts if I, put a 45 where it goes. And in order to get to that 45, I got to move a 25, a 10, and a 35 that is all on that same one now, and they're in the way. Those things bother me because it's right there, and it's not hard to do. And then the most humorous one to me that I videoed the other day was the amount of people who think that gum goes in a urinal.
Yeah.
Like, where do you think that goes?
Yeah.
And somebody has to take that out. Mm-hmm. And I think the funny thing is I've had a lot of people, I get heat for those things too, because like, oh, you're so negative, or why do you care? It's like, it's not that. It's just, for me, it's really simple. And I think it's just proof I'm getting old is when I'm done with anything I do in the gym, mm-hmm. I would think to myself, if I leave all these on, someone has to take them off.
Yeah.
Well, what if it's my mother? She can't take off 45-pound plates off of a leg press, even if it's one. And I know, like, growing up, I'm sure you were the same way. In the high school work, gym, you'd leave the 45s on because everyone started with that. Yes. You're in a public gym.
Exactly.
My mom is never going to put a 45 on there.
Right.
So you got to take it all the way off. Yeah. But I do say the same thing in reverse, because I laugh because I'll see women leave 10s on there. And I'm like, why do I have to take that off?
Yeah.
You know, they're minor things. And it's funny because I've had people go, you spend a lot of time worried. I'm like, I'm not worried about it. I just point it out. Like, why would you do this? You know? So, you know, small things. I love the fact that, you know, one thing that's happened since the thing we had a couple of years ago that kept us out of the gym.
Yes. Yeah.
That thing, people clean off equipment, but then don't take the weights off. I'm like, bro, leave it dirty. I'll clean it off if I want to clean it off. If you're only going to do one of the two, I'd rather you take your weights off and I'll clean my own machine than me know my machine's clean and now have to take your weight. I'm like, I'm in a t-shirt. I don't really care if there's sweat on it, but typically the people who have the best physiques in the gym don't leave their weight on there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a pretty simple thing, you know, so factor that and call it a day, you know. And I looked at I think the thing is even now in a big box gym, I feel like it's my gym. It's your gym. It's everyone's gym. So it does actually bother me because it's my home when I'm here, you know. And I think more people need to take that, because when I say it's my gym, I don't mean it's mine and not yours. Just mean it's our place. So what would you do? You know, and I think the scary thing is I can look at people's cars and houses and go, never mind. This is exactly what you would do if it was yours. It would be a mess. Never mind.
Sidetrack from gym etiquette and et cetera. Back onto the bodybuilding thing. You've had the opportunity to work with and alongside a lot of great bodybuilders. I know that I mentioned my friend Jeff Long to you a while back. You know, we carry some of his products. I guess outside of their stage presence, not how many Olympias they've won or Arnold's they've taken home. What I guess give me 2 to 3 of the best, you know, overall bodybuilders that you've gotten to work with or just be around.
You know, what's funny is it's more than people realize. And what's exciting is some of them are the best, which is a nice touch. You know, first and foremost that comes to my mind is Jay Cutler, which seems like a cop-out answer, but the reason I answer him is not because of his career on stage. It's because I met him when I was a kid, getting rolling. I brought him into my stores. And when I started getting into bodybuilding as a financial thing and figure out how to market myself and this and that, anytime I'd run into Jay, he would stop. I'm talking like at the airport. I'm not saying at a show, like, because we'd be traveling and I happened to see him and he'd be like, oh, hey. And he would ask questions. Hey, I saw your videos. He was keeping up and would give good advice and then be on his way, which I thought was phenomenal because you got to remember, I mean, at that point, he was in the peak of his career.
Right.
And I was just another guy in the bodybuilding, you know, and I'm not downplaying. It's just there's a lot of us trying to do it, you know, and he was that way. And what I found phenomenal with him is then when I got to know Ron Partlow really well, who I do the podcast with and everything, he knows Jay on the same level. And he's like me, like we're both, you know, we're not A-list bodybuilders competitively. You know, we have it from the marketing other standpoints, but it's like, that's not how we made it, but we have the same vibe from a guy who was. So he didn't look at him any different, you know. And then another one, a good story actually is, I was at the Olympia one year and I was at the gas booth, just walking around, and all of a sudden I hear this guy, you know, Dusty, and I turn. It was Flex Lewis. And I'm like, and I don't know him. And he knows me by first name, and I'm an amateur bodybuilder. And I was like, hey, kind of confused, you know. I just threw out a random sound. And he was like, he goes, I watch all your videos when I'm getting ready for shows. I'm like, you watch my videos. And like my brain was broken over that, you know, because all I did was, you know, I mean, much like you do, like I had a good time and just off the cuff, have some fun, make some videos, you know, and it was cool. And that was the beginning of our relationship. And we would sit in, as my career advanced, we would see each other all over the world, which was awesome. And that was a plus. But to be honest, I mean, I think people would be shocked at how many, like, what I hate about bodybuilding, and you know, this is with anything, okay? Negativity is what people remember. So it's the bad apple that ruins it for everyone, you know, because in reality, I don't have many bad experiences with pros. And I'm talking from when I was running a store and they would just pop in, or I'd see them somewhere, like they were all really solid guys, you know, and still are. And none of them that I mean, truthfully, I would have to like think to hammer someone. I was like, this guy's a jerk. You know what I mean? And I mean, there's a couple, but I hate that that's what's bodybuilding has gotten into, because the amount of solid guys is really up there. But again, it's just, that's what we're drawn to. It's why, I mean, if you want a big following on social media, just be negative.
Yeah.
People
Yeah.
they love just soaking that junk. You know what I mean? But yeah, there's countless solid guys.
Yeah. Well, good. I mean, and that's something that I'm not competitive bodybuilder. I've, coached a few guys and been to a few like national level shows, but I've never been quite to that level to see behind the scenes and get to know these guys on like a one-on-one level.
Yeah.
But the environment itself is nothing but positivity when you're there.
Right. Yeah.
A lot of the chirping and the negative stuff I tend to see comes from the social media world.
Right.
It's a lot of just unnecessary advice given or, comments made that are just destructive.
Yeah,
the sport itself,
which is normal. I mean, I think that's the thing is for anybody watching this, if they're trying to get to the next level, I think it's really important to understand that in the grand scheme of things, you having a ton of muscle doesn't matter.
Yeah,
you're not changing the world. You're not curing cancer. You're not, you're not doing anything. So I think it's important because I have found that the people I've met who have ego issues, I always laugh because I'm like, I can understand how like a cancer surgeon could probably get a little confused as he's literally saving lives.
Yeah.
Like, what am I supposed to say? Like, oh, I'm so special. I can squat 600 pounds. Who cares?
Yeah.
Like, and it's funny because this was, I had a great thing. A guy named Chris Cook, who was very big years ago.
Okay.
He was quick in and out of the sport. He turned pro and he actually just got another business and left. But he came and did a guest posing for me and kind of just took me in, and I ended up going out to his house in LA for a week and train and stuff. And when I first got there, I was still a little like, I'm sitting with Chris Cook, like, so we're at breakfast and he goes, you got to realize like no one cares.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, outside of the bubble of bodybuilding, no one knows who you are.
Yeah.
And he said, here, I'm going to show you. And the waitress came and he handed her his card and she looked at the card, she turned it over, didn't have signatures. She goes, can I see your ID? And I was like, oh.
Yeah.
She has no idea who he is. She doesn't care.
Right.
She just wants her tip. She wants to pay for breakfast. And it's funny because it was a very simple thing, but it did help me because at the moment I was sitting with a celebrity.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she's like, whatever, bro. Right. This is IHOP.
Yeah.
Like, like anybody who pays their bill and tips me 20% plus is a celebrity in this place. You know what I mean? Yeah. Well, so it was cool. It was cool to see because that really did help me understand, like, there's no reason to get confused, And it keeps things really basic. When people come up to a booth to meet me, they'll always say, oh, I'm Rick. And I'm like, oh, I'm Dusty. And they go, I know. And I'm like, well, I don't know what else to say.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
of course I introduce myself. Like,
right.
I know but I got to do something. Like,
right. And it's funny you say that because, I mean, I always lived in that kind of world too, just to like idolizing bodybuilders because that's all that I grew up in. Like, I subjected myself to just the world of bodybuilding. Like, that was my sport. I, made a point to live stream the Olympia every time I could.
Right.
Just even in high school. Then I realized as I got into college and more, I would drop names with my buddies at the gym. Like, for example, Dusty Hanshaw or
they'd be like, who?
Yeah, well, exactly.
Yeah.
Any big name that was on the come up. Who was it? It was Sean. He came in third a few years ago.
Roden.
Yes.
Yeah.
I loved his physique. I just loved the classic look that he had, the way he was able to pose and just have that just great aesthetic on stage.
Yeah.
I would mention his name and be like, what? Who?
Right.
And I'm like, I take a step back. I'm like, yeah, most of the world doesn't really pay attention to bodybuilding. Like, it's big. It's a big industry funded, has a lot of supplement money behind it and a lot of other entities. But outside of that, it's not that special. I get a kick out of people who post on Instagram like these pictures of a lion's head or something. Like I'm this hardcore, Spartan,
right,
defending my village. I'm like, brother, you're just bench pressing.
Yeah. You're eating food in bed. Yeah.
It cracks me up. But no, that's awesome stuff, man. That's great insight. What's next for Dusty Hanshaw?
Right now it's, since we've settled here, I think one thing that I'm hoping will fall into play is opening what I consider to be a real gym. And I say real gym, I mean for people like us. It won't be for everyone, and I don't mean that not everyone's not welcome, but if you're looking for a gym that's got a ton of cardio equipment and things like that, you're better off in a cheap big box gym versus a gym that I would put together. It's going to be more expensive and have the best equipment to put on muscle mass, So that's something I'm hoping to do. But for the time being, most of what I do is just the online training because it allows me to work with more people in a lot of walks of life. And contrary to most people's assumptions, about 80% of my clientele are Gen Pop people.
Okay.
Who have goals of getting in shape for their wedding or, things like that, because I found it's more rewarding. I mean, you've helped competitors. It's great.
You become a therapist.
But they also they know what they're doing. Yeah. So it's just execution. You're not changing their life, you're changing their look.
Yes.
But you can really change people's lives when you help with because the fitness and the health, that goes into confidence, which goes into work, which goes into home, which goes into friendships. And I've had a lot of fun with people who tell me like, I'm getting raises at work now. And you're like, yeah, that's because I helped you realize how awesome you are. Not could be, are.
Yeah.
And now you see it, and now you're getting more excited. I think that's a thing that people don't understand. Like when they walk in here, you're not helping them become something. You're just shining a light on what they already are so they can see and learn their strengths and, and understand they're going to get stronger mentally and physically. And the physical side's fine, but if the mental side doesn't come up with it, you're just a douchebag that's bigger.
Right.
Who cares?
True.
Very
true. It's amazing the spillover effect. Physical fitness has on every other aspect of life.
Yeah.
Because you're starting to develop those traits of discipline. And that word's thrown around way too much on the internet these days. You got a lot of hardcore entrepreneur bros that are out there promoting this, that, and the other. But the traits of discipline that are forming from getting up and going to the gym daily or holding yourself accountable to a diet, that spills over to discipline in your relationship, discipline in your faith or your, whatever job you have.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah. I mean, your total productivity as a human, it will improve.
Yeah. Well, that's the way I look at it is, if you only get better physically doing this, you're not doing it right.
Yeah.
Because it really should spill over and it shouldn't take away. A lot of people, they do, especially when they're competitive, it takes away from life. And I tell them they take a step back because bodybuilding, and I call bodybuilding to anybody who works out. It doesn't mean you compete. Yeah. But bodybuilding should make your life better. It should enrich your life. And if it doesn't, you need to move a little bit because in my opinion, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah. That's true. Well, Dusty, man, I appreciate you coming on with me and sitting down. This is fun.
Absolutely.
And yeah.